Well, good evening, and welcome, and thank you so much for joining me this evening. Uh, it's the 16th of August, 2025. We're halfway in the year, and this is the Saturday Night Talking Sip special. And of course, I won't go into what I tend to do normally on uh, Stock and Sip special. We always have something that we have to consume, but TikTok don't like those terminologies, so I won't say those terminologies as well. Um, but tonight is a very interesting night, and the topic for tonight is going the real issues with youth. Leading up to the Jamaica election, which is taking place on the 3rd of September, nomination day on the 18th. And one of the things that I want to talk about tonight is about some of the issues regarding the youth and what the youths are thinking, what's their perspective as well. And tonight I'm going to be joined by a couple of young persons from Jamaica, which is going to be very interesting and very information. And I would like persons to actually share this. It's going to be actually it's going to be on YouTube, it's going to be on Facebook, it's going to be on Instagram, and it's going to be on TikTok. So YouTube, the main one, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. TikTok, which is the overflow. Persons on TikTok, you're not actually going to see the guest, and for you to see the guest, you'll have to come over onto the Instagram and going over to the go over onto YouTube, which is preferably and even Facebook for persons go over on YouTube. YouTube is preferably because that is where you get a sense of guaranteed as well. And one of the very interesting things leading up to the elections coming up, there's a special discussion that I believe that should be had. And one of the things that I'm trying to do, I try to as much as possible to give back to Jamaica, as much as I can. And thanks for those coming on TikTok, giving a youth perspectives about the upcoming September the 3rd elections. In today's political landscape, the voices for young people become, what should I say, more crucial than ever, bringing fresh insights and energy to debate about the future for our nation. Sometimes the youths are tend to be left aside, pushed aside, and is left for an afterthought. And sometimes you have the level of apathy, which when it comes on to voting, do the youths vote? Will they vote? Uh, Tonight, I'm going to be honored to be joined by two outstanding young attorneys, Britnie Edwards and Danmar Clarke. They are both have been observers, and I would say they're advocates as young persons. Very unbiased, I would say, with Jamaica's social and legal um, environment as you navigating challenging and opportunities in our evolving democracy. Britnie and Danmar offers unique perspectives only on the issues that affect their own generation, but also on what the future holds for Jamaica as we stand at the crossroads of change. And one of the things that we're going to explore how Jamaicans feel about the voting process, the barriers they encounter, young people especially. As a young person myself, as you can see, I'm just in my 20s. The real concerns driving their choices and what needs to inspire greater youth engagement in shaping the policies and leadership of our country, from political representation to social justice, education, employment, and beyond. This conversation hopefully promises a candid look at the hopes, frustration, and ambitions of today's youth. And of course, I'm looking for interjection and discourse also from persons who are coming in. So we're going to dive in with Britnie and Devar about the youth experience in these critical elections. And it's going to be a critical one. I call this election a critical one in Jamaica's landscape as well. Good evening, good night, good night. Well, first of all, Britnie Edwards. Britnie Edwards, I like to, it makes sense that I speak to them. Britnie Edwards is a Jamaican attorney at law and podcast host. She holds first class honors in law and completed her training at the Normal Manley Law School. Beyond her legal career, Britnie has represented her parish in the Miss Festival Queen competition, where she championed culture and community service through her podcast and public speaking. She continues to inspire others by making the law accessible and sharing messages of faith and also empowerment. That's Miss Britnie Edwards. And I'm going to bring in Miss Britnie shortly. But before I do that, let me introduce Mr. Danmar Clarke. Well, I found out that Mr. Danmar Clarke, actually, when I speaking to him, Danmar Clarke hails from my side. As everybody know that one of the first things I always say every time I come on my show, means a Ochi man, straight out of Ochi. And I got to understand that he's from Ochiris as well. So I'm elated. and secondly, also that Mr. Danmar Clarke hails from the school that I went to, which is York Castle High School, one of the best schools in Jamaica. All these Kingston people always come and say, you guys are from country, but York Castle High School, one of the best. Found out that his principal was my classmate as well. Anyway, Danmar Clarke is a holder of a Bachelor of Laws degree from UTech Jamaica. He further went on to attain his master's at the University of West Indies in Government and Public Policy. And he recently satisfied the criteria to graduate the Norman Manley Law School and will be receiving his legal practice certificate in September. Mr. Clarke is currently a sales and marketing manager, one of the leading distributors in Jamaica, and also privately tutored law school. Very passionate about politics and consider himself to be an advocate. He most notably known in Jamaica for his fight for equal access to the legal profession for students and future aspires to be a revolutionary politician. I sometimes want to read some of the comments that people say that they want to do and what they want to be after. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in, I can see Mr. Danmar Clarke. I'm going to bring him in, and then I'm going to bring in Miss Britnie Edwards. So first, without further ado, let me bring in Mr. Danmar Clarke. Danmar, how are you doing?
Greetings, everyone, and greetings, Mr. Sidial. I'm here.
Yes.
You hear me?
I can hear you clearly, man. I can hear you clearly. I know you're trying to come from Ochiris. You're on the beach or something of that nature. You're on the beach.
Well, I'm actually in Kingston, While I hail from Ochiris, actually, work and reside in Kingston.
Okay.
But home is where the heart is. So we definitely have to go back home as often as possible.
Fantastic. Without further ado, let me bring in Miss Britnie Edwards as well. Miss Britnie Edwards, good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, good day. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Well, we're good here. Good that I'm able to get some of the Jamaican, what should I say, vibes. I can hear a double voice. Like I'm hearing a little echo. I know this sounds also exciting trying to be a part of this whole thing. The echo is giving me 4 voices. I should only have 3. I don't know where that echo is coming from. But listen, guys, we get it there. I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight as much as possible. I believe this is a very intriguing and very special time in Jamaica in light of this election. Good. Who did that? Somebody did that. That was nice. No sound. That was Danmar. Danmar, if you mute yourself, I'm going to address Britnie now. Britnie, can you tell me what is it that you see as this election process? First of all, with a sort of opening, what's your vision for Jamaica, especially with youths?
Well, thank you for that. Let me just say I'm grateful to be here. It's always a great opportunity to be able to speak, on issues that affect young people. It's an opportunity to advocate for myself and for others. So really, this election, I really believe that young people want to see opportunities coming to them for empowering themselves, opportunities that will not just be promises, but opportunities that will allow them to be able to, be homeowners, to be able to access the certain loans, opportunities that really will push them to the next level. So I think above all, young people really want to see effective change, effective work from any government, really, whoever will, take the victory at election.
Thank you for that. And Denmark, in the opening, what's your take on the upcoming election? What's your view?
Well, I definitely agree with my colleague, Miss Edwards. These elections are very important. Despite one of the consistent challenges being voter apathy, based on the feedback on the ground, and just generally speaking to our colleagues, we find that persons are very willing to participate in these upcoming elections, primarily because of the narrative that's been pushed by both parties. For the JLP, for one, is pushing vote for Jamaica. They're pushing this patriotic narrative to say, listen, keep us in power. We have done we have accomplished these amount of things which have been beneficial to you, the citizen, right? Or are you the people of Jamaica? We only can get better. Keep us in power, right? Choose Jamaica. On the other hand, now we have the PNP saying, listen, you have had 9 years in power, right? Much of the things you have accomplished were in the pipeline for us. We have this great manifesto that we put out. Give us an opportunity to accomplish these things. They're also piggybacking the whole idea of accountability, reduction in issues such as corruption. You understand me? So it's clash of two ideologies taking place. And I suspect the people of Jamaica, they're very well informed. I can tell you, gone are the days where persons would not be informed what's taking place. Persons are very informed. They read a lot. The social media is the key tool that's being used to inform the masses. So you find that persons are very engaged and they're very excited to go to the polls. Yeah.
And Britnie, do you think that and the question also applies to yourself, Denmark. When I go to Britnie, do you think that most young Jamaicans are interested or disengaged from politics, and why? Do you think most Jamaicans are interested? Young Jamaicans.
Well, I do believe that many persons are interested, but the challenge really is that do they actually move forward with that interest and indicate it at the polls? Now, you find a lot of people, young people, they've been raised in households where they're diehard JLP or diehard PNB. And
Yeah.
so, in their demonstration of this voting process is like they really just want to do what they see happening. For those who obviously are not educating themselves on the right strategies. But I think people are interested, but it's a matter of whether they actually go ahead and vote on election day, which is what is the meat of the matter. If you're interested and not necessarily allowing yourself to make the decision, it's just as bad as not doing anything at all.
Hmm. Denmark, do you think most young Jamaicans are interested or disengaged from politics?
That's a very complex question. I
Mm.
want to start off the answer just like this. With a background in research, I can tell you that when I did my paper, we focused on the factors affecting voter turnout in 2020. Now, when we conducted that research, you found that many persons at the time were not interested, a bit of, lot of disengagement at that particular point, right? Now, coming out of 2020, now we're in 2025, I think that many persons will be interested in going to the polls. While I agree with my colleague, and by the way, everybody's hearing me and seeing me, right?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. We can hear you. Just put
Okay,
yourself for only. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, go
okay,
ahead.
no problem.
Yeah.
So while there's still the whole principle or the phenomena of die hardness in Jamaica, right? What you find nowadays is that there's a split in a lot of households. You find that the older generation are support the PNP, right? And you find that the younger generation are supporters of the JLP. So you find a household now that have a dynamic type of twist,
Mm.
right? The twist comes now because the from 2016, since the JLP have been in power, in power. Many persons who would have been, I would say, like around 18 or so, they would have, I guess, benefited or felt as though they benefited under this new government. And based on what they're seeing on the social media, what they understand the policies to mean, feel as though they should be engaging to maintain, right, this political party in power, right? So, simple conclusion, young persons will be turning out at the polls, right? And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. This whole notion of vote for Jamaica, this patriotic type of approach that the political party is taking, is pretty attractive to the younger people. Likewise, on the other end of the spectrum, you do have young persons who are supporters of the PNP as well, who want to turn out to the polls because they feel as though that there's a lot more that can be achieved under the leadership of Mark Bowling, especially by virtue of them hearing different promises he has. Well, as relates to housing, as my colleague Ms. Edwards pointed out, right? That's a very big thing in Jamaica, right? You find that the younger generation of persons, I think it probably reflects in the birth rate as well, but we won't get into too much of that just yet. But persons are very driven in terms of accomplishing a lot of things for themselves. Housing, again, as I mentioned earlier, is the key thing. So hearing initiatives out of the PNP's manifesto, such as the whole concept of NH2 rent to own, that's pretty attractive. So persons who want to get in the PNP, for example, in power, so they can benefit from this thing where each month they can they can move into the premises, right? And you can pay that money from a rent. You can own it at a later date. So each party is making their manifestos attractive, and I think persons will definitely go out.
You,
This
you,
time,
you,
I can tell you, persons will be out voting.
yeah. You said each parties are making their manifesto attractive, but only the PNP has put out their manifesto already.
Well, the PNP's manifesto would have been out. Can't get how long it was, but I don't think it has passed a week or so,
Yeah,
or a week or 2 weeks or so. But
yeah,
what they've been doing is basically hinting at what the manifesto will contain, right?
yes,
So that's one medium a person would have heard what Mr. Mark Golding has in mind. The JLP has accomplished quite a number of things themselves over the
yes.
period they've been in power, right? And they've been right on the coattails of that success. So persons want to maintain that. And yeah,
Yeah. Brittany, if you follow up on that bit there, especially regarding the young people, um, and okay, you're from a particular demographics in the sense of in the professional legal fraternity. What about young people on a whole, those up and down Jamaica? Um, what do they feel a part of the whole process? Do the parties are going for them? I can see like young people in the different political parties or so, but is that translating down to the young people in a way? Um,
All right. So I would say really that it's a balanced approach. It's always a balanced approach that we have to take in analyzing all of these issues. So the first is that, if we can look at real practical situations, let's say where I'm at in, we're Kingston, St. Andrews. It's We have a lot of young people who would have left home from rural, moved to urban. They would have gotten enumerated back home, right? A lot of those persons, they come to Kingston for university, they don't go back home, right? The realities in rural Jamaica is different from the reality in urban Jamaica. In
yeah,
rural Jamaica, obviously, you probably would know and be more intimate with, more direct with your political representative, and you're able to go ahead and you're able to share the concerns that you have, as opposed to when you move to, say, Kingston, and you have concerns, there are certain things you want to raise, you're not able to have that direct approach, right? But what we can see though is that both political parties have actually been open to having young people voice their concerns. That is the truth. We have both parties having the youth arm of, so you have in youth parliament both sides, and that's always an amazing opportunity for young people to get engaged in politics. So we have our peers advocating for us. That is even where we have the access to the Governor General Awards, because people would have, through their access to different resources and through their involvement, they would have demonstrated that they're active part of really build nation building. So there are opportunities for young people to get involved, but not everyone actually get involved. Now, how does that translate in our everyday living? The real truth is that there are others who are really feeling marginalized. There are others who are feeling that I'm not getting the sense. I don't see what this government has done for me, and I don't know what this upcoming one can do. There are some persons who are on the fences, but I also believe that in respect of voting, a lot of people they're interested, but not all of them really will go ahead and make the choice because they're indecisive. And there are others too who have floating voters. They say, all right, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move forward with this because I was able to see this change, or I'm able to believe in this change that's coming. So there are opportunities. Just to conclude, for young people to be engaged. There are programs. I recently learned of a lift program that the current government has, right? And young people are being able to access opportunities, having being high school dropouts or whatever, they're able to access it. And then the PNP is also proposing other opportunities. So these are the things young people are actually willing to say, let me put my vote for this, right? So, and I believe that the challenge we would have had in the past is the both parties are campaigning to young people, but after being in power, then you realize that the switch is no longer with young people. So they're like, but we gave this was our comment and this is our suggestion, but we're not seeing it. So it's really a balanced approach. So there is access and there's opportunity, but not in every essence of the word we see that change being manifested.
So therefore, Denmark and what we're seeing then is that information for young people is out there where they can actually engage as much as possible. Is for them to really get up and go there, right, Britnie? The last election, 2020, there was 37% turnout to vote from the electoral list. The electoral list had 1.92 million people. I would contribute that a lot also to COVID. Would you say that COVID contributed to that?
Certainly.
Definitely,
Do you,
definitely.
what do you see as the a percentage turnout of people, and do you believe young people will sort of make that swelling more in this election? 37% at the last time of the 1.92 million. Do you see going above that, Denmark?
Honestly, I think so. I think
Mm,
so. I really appreciate that you brought in the whole COVID factor because from the research at UWI, COVID was a fundamental factor. Many persons were very afraid, of interacting with such large swaths of people, of contracting the virus. Now that
yeah.
is long and over. As again, going back to the point of information, social media has been running very hot in Jamaica in terms of reels and posts and so on as to what different parties have to offer, right? And I'm going to piggyback again on my earlier point. The whole narrative of choose Jamaica is what the JLP is pushing, right? Protect us, right? Keep us in power. This is what we're offering, and you will get these benefits. In terms of voter turnout, I suspect it might be around 45% or more, or closer to 50 maybe. It really depends on how the parties are successful in terms of canvassing the ground, getting persons out to vote. Right?
Yes.
What I can tell you is that from my observation, you find that in terms of the voter population, I must commend the JLP in terms of their ability to really appeal to a younger audience.
Mm,
What you find is that their appeal comes from around the ages of 18 to 29. I can probably push a little further to say probably
yeah.
18 to around 35 or so. The PNP's mass support really comes from an older audience. There's still young audiences, of course, but we have to just face the reality in terms of how the demographic is set. So we'll definitely get a good turnout. And again, it really depends on how the parties canvass, and it really depends on what you have in the manifesto. This is the time we have to really sell what you have to the people to encourage them to come out. And again, I'm going to touch on it again. I know I'm going to be repetitive, but it's the narrative you push. Choose Jamaica. You have another party saying, time come. You understand me? We have given you 9 years, right? We feel as though that you guys have done a bad job in terms of accountability and governance. You guys have crushed so many fundamental rights or constitutional rights where we have challenged you. We've been successful. Get these guys out. Put us in power. Let us remove the Privy Council, for example. Let's talk legal. Remove the Privy Council. Let's put in a regional court that look where the judges look like us, face our everyday realities, right? So these are things that are being put to the young people, and I can tell the young people are well read, as my colleague pointed out. They know what the manifesto, well, for the most part, what have been put forward. They know the issues. They know what you've been proposing, and they understand it, right? So voter turnout for me, as a concluding point, it will increase.
Britnie, that's a very interesting point. Time come and vote for Jamaica. From an objective perspective, and someone listening to that, when you hear time come and vote for Jamaica, how do you see those two resonating? What appeals to a young? Okay, you're embodying the voices of young people now. Your colleagues, what are they saying when they hear time come, vote for Jamaica? Britnie.
Well, let me just say it has been a recurring theme everywhere you go. And as a young person, I know that I love to hear which side is going to come with something more impressive. So it goes back down, as he rightfully said, from the manifesto, from the points. But listen, politics in Jamaica, I've recognized, has been a major source of entertainment during this time. So a lot of people in Jamaica, young people, they have been following the campaign trails. I have a friend recently, she earlier this year, probably late last year, she was not very interested in anything political. And this time around, I hear she's saying, Brittany, I think I'm going to vote. And I think I'm going to vote based on this reason, based on that reason. So all of it is coming together because people are making informed decisions now. People are
Yes.
making informed decisions, and it's really more than just the taglines. It's what comes with the tagline. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's choose Jamaica or time come. Yes, it's catchy. It's very catchy, but people are looking at it's more than just a convenience. When you look at issues that are affecting young people, they want to be able to elect somebody this time around that will make a change, in their perspective, or to continue to enforce change. You spoke about the elections in 2020 and just how the the elections in 2020 and just how you had a low voter turnout. Are you hearing me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I think I got disconnected for a
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the low voter turnout in 2020, and a part of that, as you said, persons were a bit concerned about the COVID-19 pandemic and all of that. But I believe that people believe they've been given a chance now to redeem themselves. And I can personally tell you, people who have known that they've been reserved all their lives, they have been enumerated, they can vote, but they've chosen not to. But this time around, yeah, people saying choose Jamaica. They have their armbands, they have the flags, and they're actually going to listen to budget debates.
Yes.
Time in the past, people are not listening to the budget debates. They have no care or concern. But young people want to elect a government who they see is economic development is paramount, it's top of mind. Yes, and people are now looking at which government at this point in time will allow me to access this. We don't want to have to leave to succeed. That's a thing I've been hearing a lot. I don't
Yeah.
want to leave to succeed. I want to be able to
You don't want to leave. You want to leave Jamaica to succeed. That's what Brittany is actually saying. Yeah. Uh, Denmark, you can come in. Yeah.
Jamaica.
Yeah.
The
Okay. Go ahead, Brittany. We just had a little glitch right there, Brittany. Brittany.
I must apologize. It seems I'm having some connectivity challenges. But yes, really, I'm just saying that we have been in a place where we don't want to leave to succeed. If Vision 2030 is to be realized, we certainly want to know that we're benefiting. That's the
Mm.
truth. This generation is concerned about and empowering ourselves and empowering our future. We want to ensure that the past and what we've come to see and know our parents to live and to do. We want to do better, and so that's really what young people in Jamaica are really focusing on at this particular time.
Can I just ask both of you? It's a bit of a controversial one, which I'm going to say now. Is this: do you think that if persons do not engage and come out to vote, and the turnout is very low, for argument's sake, Australia has this thing whereby they are penalized for not voting, like putting that sort of hardcore compulsory for people to go to the polls. Do you think that is something that Jamaica should consider if the turnout is poor? Because in the last election, as I said, we have 37% of person turnout to vote, which 400 and so thousand turnout to vote for the JLP, and 300 and so thousand came to vote for the PNP. What you have is a minority of the people of Jamaica who the majority now is less homage to. So therefore, that 400 and some thousand voted in the JLP, they are the ones now who is controlling the country. Do you think that there should be something that forces them? I see somebody say no, 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 no. Michelle Clarke said no, 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 no. Well, I just throw that one out. What do you think?
I say no.
I
I
also say no. and,
I,
and, and,
I,
and if I could share,
I say no to that.
Yeah.
yeah, if I could share, really, it really would violate our democracy as a country. I mean, remember, we pride ourselves as being a democratic nation. If you're
Yes.
now saying you have to vote, get out and vote, that is really tantamount to us being slave drivers. You
They,
are
they, they
forcing
can
someone
mark.
against their will.
They can mark Y or paint something over the names. If they can go there and just don't really exercise like to vote uh, X beside a bell or whatever, a power thing or whatever, you know.
Well, I mean, in effect, that would essentially be the same thing as not voting, because if you're being forced to go and you go and make a bad vote or not vote at all, it wouldn't even make good sense if you just allow these people to act of free will. And what we
Mm.
really want to do is, we don't want to see politics being a thing where you're being demanded to do it, because if as a people we are driven by change, we're driven by whatever it is that we are inspired by. So once we're inspired to do something based on what we're recognizing happening, really and truly people will go out and vote. You don't have to tell anybody to vote if they see the need to do it.
So
That's the truth.
therefore, yeah. So
Yeah,
therefore,
yeah. In fact, the change itself in voting, voter apathy will change or reduce if it is that people, it's ease of access, because a lot of things to, recently I was doing a training, even with the election, the EOJ, to be able to, work on the day to assist with smooth elections. And I find that a lot of people, when they hear about election day, it's not that they don't want it, but they're like the lines, and they're saying, "Oh, I don't have any ID." A lot of people don't even know that you can't, once you're enumerated, once you're on the list, you do not have to have your physical ID on the day to actually vote. So there's so many limitations that people have in mind, and they just don't vote based on that. But I can assure you that once people see the need to vote and the opportunities are there, the access is there, they will vote. They have opportunity to leave work and to go to vote. Yeah, they will vote. You don't need to have a flag over their backs. I mean, yeah, it's an opportunity for everybody.
so therefore, they have to be inspired. It is up to the parties to inspire the young.
Very much so.
Inspire. Then that means that leads me now to what issues then matter most to yourself and to your peers when deciding whom to support. What are the issues then that matters most? if we're going to look at policies, okay, let's look at some key policies: education, health, um,
Housing.
crime, housing. What for yourself, Denmark? What would you say are some of the policies that personally affect young people that they're looking for, they're keen listening out for? And I come to you, Ruth, after Ruth. Yeah,
All right, so I just want to piggyback off the first question that was asked.
yeah,
Uh, Firstly, I agree with my colleague. No force should be exerted on the citizens to vote. It is an indictment on the political parties to inspire, as you clearly pointed out, to inspire the populace to come out and support, so democracy. So we're all on the same page relates to that. In terms of policies that the young people want to see in the upcoming elections, you really reel them off pretty clear. I'm going to start off with the big monster in Jamaica, which I must say has been tamed or thwarted a bit. It's crime. Our crime rate was very egregious. Egregious, eh?
yeah,
Very disgraceful. You understand me? And what we found is that based on the new policies, when I say policies, I mean there have been amendments or improvements to the Bail Act. You understand me? There have been improvements or amendments rather to the legislation as relates to sentencing for non-capital and capital murder significantly increased, right? You find that the government has significantly invested in policing and the various tools or training required by the police. So I'm saying all that to say that the crime has gone down to 44% for this year. It has been at its lowest, and that is something that's been very attractive to the citizens of Jamaica, right? And we want to see that. In fact, we still think there's a lot of work to be done. We want it to go down even lower, right? Because we all know the impact of crime. It affects it affects the economic side of things. It affects the social side of things. It affects the whole immigration process. Many persons do leave Jamaica because of the crime and stuff. So that's something that we definitely want to see. Whichever government is elected, we want them to definitely bring that down to zero, so that we can spend our resources in other areas such as healthcare. Going over to my second point in terms of what I want to see is health, right? In Jamaica, the healthcare needs significant improvement. The infrastructure in hospitals is very poor. You have persons who are in hospitals in Jamaica who don't have beds, right? You have situations where we don't have certain vital machines to conduct certain procedures or surgeries, right? Our major hospitals are in a very deplorable state. So we definitely want to see improvements in the healthcare sector, right? I'm going to push in a little social policy. We want to see the government find creative and innovative ways in encouraging young people to reproduce, because what you find is that the birth rate has really reduced, and that was going to impact the government and the citizenry, because if you don't have a strong population going forward, who are going to pay the taxes, right? And taxes are what really push the government in terms of bringing in that resource to fix roads and ensure that we have certain um, necessities, right? So we have to, it's on them now to encourage the young people to say, all right, we're going to do this, we're going to reproduce, increase the birth rate. Now, the next thing we want to discuss is a whole topic of education. Now we hear the government made a promise that students no longer need guarantors to get student loans. So a guarantor is essentially somebody who, as the word suggests, who guarantees the loan, right? It's a bit of a tedious process because you have to identify someone, either in your family or somebody you trust, to really sign up several documents, right? And these documents must be submitted. Pretty tedious process, right? And the government is saying, well, we understand there are issues with the process. We're going to dispense with the need for guarantors, attracting a lot of young people. We hear the government promising that they're going to ensure that persons can get certain grants and scholarships from the student loan. Again, attracting a lot of young people. We want to see them follow through on that, right? We also want to see them assist us in terms of the interest rate. We also want to see student loan forgiveness. You have a lot of persons who would have defaulted on their payments of student loan, right? Primarily because they might have not been successful in getting a job once they graduated. And so they would have, up the student loan. So we want to see a lot of student loan forgiveness as it relates to education. We had a serious issue the other day in terms of the literacy rate. We want the government to take that very seriously. We have to move away from a dunce culture in Jamaica. We really need to have the next generation being educated, being able to read, write, and understand policy. My colleague Miss Edwards pointed out that persons are now reading to understand the policy, and that's very good. There's been a significant shift in the winds, right? Persons want to know what your policy is. You understand me? Persons don't want to go back to the day when there's an MP in power for over 30 years and the roads still mash up and no pipe, no potable water in the communities. People take those things very seriously in Jamaica 2025. And I can tell you, um, the whole notion of safe seats in this country has been dispensed with. There are no safe seats in Jamaica, right? Every MP
Sorry, are
has.
you saying that Tivoli Gardens is not a safe seat?
Well, I'm gonna say no. I want to tell you why I said that. There are no safe seats. I stand by my point, right? Because I'm gonna tell you something. The MP for Tivoli Gardens would have produced, and there are different policies we see they implement for down there. Let me give you a joke. In Jamaica, you will see a sea of, for example, green, and the whole sea of green go vote for PNP. That's how the thing in Jamaica has changed. The people will trick you by wearing your colors and vote for the other party. I'm telling you,
They,
they'll
they,
vote you out,
they said that
right?
they said that's what happened at Halfway Tree. A lot of PNP was at Halfway Tree. That's what they said.
It's
I'm
not
not.
a lie. A lot of yes, it's true. It's true. It's true. I'm
Yeah,
agreeing with you to say there were a lot of PNP that was at Halfway Tree, right? The
yeah.
reason why they were at Halfway Tree is because they want to really hear what the party has in mind. Because I'm gonna tell you something.
Mm,
Again, the whole notion of choose Jamaica, it's echoing a lot of person's ears. I'm tell you something. When a party goes
yes.
in power, they'll be in power for 4 years. Now, 4 years is a very long time until the next general elections, right?
5 years. Okay.
And I'll tell you something, cost of living has in well, 5 years really, but they generally call it within the 4 year period. But it's really 5 years constitutionally, right?
Yeah.
That's a long time in power, right? You have to appreciate the fact that if you elect a government that is not firm with no good policies, you're going to
Mm,
suffer. Cost of living is a real thing. So if you can get a government where, for example, look at the JLP, they would have increased the minimum wage 2 times since they've been
mm,
elected, right? If you can get a government who can progressively increasing like even the minimum wage, that's attractive to people, right? Because they say, all right then, if you increase it 2 times within this term, chances are the next term you'll do 2 times again, right? If we have the other party saying, well, we won't be focusing too much on minimum wage, we'll be focusing on, for example, something else, a different policy they might have in mind. Person might not want to vote them in. So I'm going back to the point. That's why so many persons turn out to Halfway Tree because there are a lot of persons in Jamaica right now that are actually on the fence, as my colleague pointed out. There are a lot of persons who are on the
yes.
fence, right? They would have grown up in die-hard households, PNP households, but by virtue of them experiencing different changes, or should I say, they benefit from the different policies, you know, they might just say, you know what, I went to the rally, I'll vote JLP. On the flip side, a man might go to the JLP rally as a JLP and say, boy, well, I don't really agree
Uh,
what they're doing. I don't really like their policies. I'm just going to vote PNP. Yeah.
Amar. So if I ask you in a nutshell, then what are this? And I'll go to Brittany after. What do you say are then the key policies that young people resonate to young people? What
All
are
right then. So let me
yes,
summarize.
yeah,
Housing,
yeah.
crime reduction, healthcare, education. Those are my big four.
Okay, Brittany, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining. I'm with Ms. Britnie Edwards and Danmar Clarke tonight, looking at from a youth perspective the real issues for youth in Jamaica in the Jamaica upcoming election. And thanks for those who are joining me on TikTok. Uh, somebody said PNP love this live. That's someone on TikTok there. Next day, somebody's going to say JLP love this live. Uh, and for those on YouTube, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, Brittany, your view. What are some of the key fundamental issues that young people are looking for? The keen eyes, my year, my one, my what them say, my meds, my pre. What the Prime Minister said, what Mark Golding has said. What is it that they are looking to hear?
Well, let me just say that I agree with what my colleague said earlier. And I'll begin by saying that young people, contrary to the previous generation, are not inspired by hearing things like, we will give you roads, we will give you water. because this generation is confident that that is something, those are necessities that every government ought to provide. So they're not inspired by hearing that we'll give you roads and we'll give you water. That doesn't, it doesn't move the needle. I know, and this is something that, Mr. Clarke wouldn't have gone to at length, but housing. Young people want to own their own homes. That has been a recurring theme. A lot of people, they not just in Jamaica, I think it's a worldwide issue, but since we're in the context of Jamaica, and I believe that we've seen a lot of changes, we have to admit. And, they're also, both parties have, in their manifesto, well, we've seen one thus far. We've heard the plans of the other. But really, housing is very important. And we've seen lately, we have, a lot of open market loans. So NHC has been doing now a promotion where they have a home it. And, the home it loans, they have open market, you have build on land construction. The limit for NHC has now increased. So persons can now borrow, two co-applicants can borrow up to 17 million. You have three, it's so persons are able to now benefit from that, and that's something that they want to see, because you don't want to live and paying for the rest of your life. People
Yes.
want to own, and on top of owning, they want to also be able to buy and sell. We've realized that inflation has gone up, and so with inflation being up, we realize that everything else becomes more expensive.
Yeah.
And people want to not just, so home ownership, very important, but the standard of living is very important. As I would have said earlier, that people don't want to leave to succeed. A lot of people, a lot of young people that you see leave here, is not because they want to leave Jamaica, but because the standard of living is not where they want it to be, right? So housing is very important. He would have mentioned health,
Yes.
and as a woman, I can tell you that we want good access to healthcare, except good access to healthcare, right? Right now we have a situation where the public health facilities are overcrowded. You go there and you have a long wait time. Sometimes there are people who are really and truly they're on benches. It has
Yeah.
been improved, and we hope to see greater improvements. But young people, we'd have had situations where mothers, if they're not able to pay for private rooms, when doing delivery, you realize that they're petrified about going to a public hospital when there are a lot of people. Because of course we have qualified nurses and doctors, but because of the workload and the pressure, it seems as if that, boy, the effects are not, the results are not always favoring for us, right? So we want to be able to feel safe going to any hospital. We don't want to say that hospital you might go and not come back.
Yeah.
We don't want that. So healthcare is very important for young people, right? Crime is very important, that we see that it's a place where young women, and again, I have to speak on women issues because I am able to see it firsthand. We want to be able to be safe in our houses. We have to commend the government, like we've seen a reduction in crime, and both governments. I believe that this is an issue that you don't necessarily be JLP or PNP to want to see Jamaica be a safe place to live and to raise families. It's in our 2030 vision. And I believe that every Jamaican, young and old, want to be able to, you know, access that safety. You don't want to always be home and you have to have all of these burglar bars, and really we want to see a place where our kids can go outside and they can play, and we don't have somebody might snatch them and they're disappearing. So things like that. Another very important thing I
Yeah.
really see, and it's not something that we always look at, but best believe it that there is the regulation of the different entities, financial regulation. It's so important. We would have seen last year, and and previous years, but more so last year was a very big year. We have a situation where We are not sure if we want to invest in a certain place, we want to use a certain institution. So there are measures in place to ensure that there's regulation of different institutions, and we must commend them. There have been changes, and we have to say that things are improving, but regulation in the different sectors is very important because we don't want to have a country where we're afraid to invest in our own country, right?
I guess you're alluding to like SSL and those also.
SSL, right, and our recent ones,
Can I
it's
just
in court, so
can I just ask? Can I just ask? The voice of young people are very is deemed or seem to be muted in these areas. What is the young people saying, on campus or through the network when things with SSL and the financial situation, even with Dennis Chung bit, just on a general scope? What are they saying? Sorry, I'm detracting right there, but I ask you to just comment on a bit there, and then Denmark, just on the
so
vibes. Yeah.
So, as you would have, as you know, my colleague would have said earlier, people are, you see, the social media. Listen, a lot of people are now taking to social media every concert that they have, every comment that they have. If people have a voice on something, you see it, you will hear it,
Yeah.
and it's been an active conversation. A lot of people have, raised concerns, as I
Yes.
said, about the regulation of the sector, because they would have said, how is it that this thing would have continued to exist for
Yes.
so long? How is it that it went on unnoticed? So it's
Yeah.
things that these people, young people, they talk about it. And as I said,
Yes.
that is where the fear is coming from.
Yeah.
Because if this person is an icon and they have so much money, in one place, and they've represented the country,
Yeah.
and this is what has become of their own finances. What about me? How can I feel safe to build in this? Yeah.
Mm.
So young people are now looking, because I mean, contrary to what people think, that young people don't really care about their finances, and they're just about sporting. That's not true in entirety, because young people they are now trying to strike a balance. I want to enjoy life. I want to have access to different amenities, and I'm going to save and invest. And so people want a safe place to invest. We have to give it to the stock exchange, and the different entities that have really been holding the market. It has been good, but we just want it to be a safer place. We want to hear less fraudulent activities taking place. This bank has employee has gone with this money. We want to see it be a more secure. And of course, you cannot ever get to a place where there's absolutely nothing taking place. But what
Mm.
can happen is that our laws can actually be at a place where people know that there are consequences, and there's a guarantee that there will be some form of repercussions for their actions,
Yeah.
right? So enforcement of the laws, and then we'd have to go to the court system and the backlog. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that needs to be adjusted. But as our late Prime Minister said, there's nothing that's wrong with Jamaica that cannot be fixed with what is right with Jamaica. So above all that's taking place, above all that we need to be fixed, we know that it can be done, because retaining the young minds, retaining the brilliant minds that we have here in Jamaica will help us as a country to actually not just meet 2030 vision, but to exceed it abundantly.
It's interesting you mentioned 2030 vision. Do you see that as still a possibility in 2030?
Let's just say we're in 2025, which we are.
Mm.
And 5 years, we have a lot to do. We have a lot to do, and it's just 5 years. So I do think that perhaps we need to adjust that, or we're
Yes.
going to exponentially increase our efforts to meet that. I do not think it is impossible, but it is a far stretch to think 5 years can do so much.
Thank you. So therefore, what you're saying in regards to yourself, you're talking about young people wanting to own their home as well. Health, hospital is a key factor. Regulation of financial institution, and what Omar said, that there need to be more production. So therefore, you guys need to need to get together and have babies, isn't it, Denmark and Britney? Denmark, ladies and gentlemen, and those on TikTok, if you want to actually tune in, go on to the YouTube channel Silver and TV. Uh, and tonight is a night where we're listening to the youth voices, which is very important. I see a lot of my elderly folks on TikTok, a lot of elderly persons on TikTok, but they are listening to the young people today. Danmar, Vision 2030, and also the bit about young people thoughts on things like SSL. What are they saying? What's your perspective as well?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Let me put it like this. What happened at SSL was a very unfortunate situation, primarily because we find that an icon, a national icon, in Usain Bolt, have been defrauded of his funds. Now, it kind of left a bad impact on the current government, primarily because questions are being asked by the Ministry of Finance, the regulation, or the regulatory procedures that were in place, right, to oversee the operations of SSL. Now, there's another conversation in this space to say, well, it's very ironic that the Prime Minister was able to withdraw his funds from SSL not too long before it imploded or the scandal came to the front. I'm saying all that to say that the impact of SSL is that it has created a lot of mistrust as it relates to the banking sector, not just locally, but I suspect internationally as well. But it
Yes.
has also impacted the current government in a way in terms of trust in that way. But since it has happened, I suspect that it's something we can get past.
Yes.
You understand? But it ought not happen again. It should not happen again.
And in
It should not
regards
happen
to,
again.
in regards to Vision 2030.
All right. To be honest with you, as my colleague pointed out, we're in 2025. Vision 2030 would actually be 5 years from now. To be honest with you, I don't think it will be realistic. It will not be a realistic
It's a pipe dream now.
goal. It's not a pipe dream. Let's be honest with ourselves. At the point when the whole Vision 2030 was drafted, it was quite some time ago. So persons would have anticipated that there have been significant changes in terms of policies and so forth up to this point. But sometimes the mill of change kind of move a bit slow. And so at this point, it's still good to have targets though, because when you have KPIs, key performance indicators, or you have timelines in mind, it should put not pressure, but it should be government and level of guidance as to what they're supposed to achieve by a certain point. Now, in order to achieve any vision, whether 2030 or 2040, I believe that both government and opposition must be locked in and must be in some agreement as to certain targets that they want to achieve as a national goal. And I believe if they take that approach, we can achieve what we set out to achieve. You get me? Here's another fear that I have, and I suspect many voters will have at the polls. Many persons don't really want to be a case where if they vote for another party, certain processes that are in the pipeline, they'll be set aside or no longer followed upon. Right? And that's just the reality. I'll leave it there.
And that's a very good point. And you bring me on to another question. Since you brought that point up, I'll just bring in that question now. What I think when I interviewed Marlon Morgan on my show, and I said one of the policies I see where the prime minister is going around and not giving houses, but giving keys and breaking ribbons and giving houses. I said that's a lovely policy. That's a lovely thing. I said, would it continue if there's a change of government? And I think he alluded to no. And I said, no, that is something that needs to continue, if anything. Wouldn't it be great? Let's use an example. Let's use this as a classic example. Like how the buses that came in Jamaica recently for education. And, it has become politicized. Wouldn't that be great if both parties and some civil society came together and agreed on that as a way forward? And therefore, it now will change if a new party come in power. Secondly, crime. If crime is something which is together, PNP and JLP, working together with civil society, we know that's the way we are going forward. But, and you can say this now based on my analogy, but is it a situation where Jamaican politics is so whereby no party is going to actually like the other party getting credit for such a policy? When really and truly it is in the best interest of the nation for it to work there. Because if the JLP in power, the PNP in power, if that is implemented under their regime, are we PNP do it? Are we JLP do it? I show that to you, Britnie. You get what I'm trying to say right there.
Yes. And here's my view on this. This has always been my view, and let me tell you, I stand on it. There are some things in Jamaica that we need a bipartisan approach, always. There are some things that are non-negotiables. You cannot negotiate. Politics ought not to get in the way of us getting these things. It doesn't matter who started it, who finished it, who gets the credit. The essence of politics in Jamaica ought to be the people. And I think losing people as the essence of what we do is what causes all of this. Well, I won't continue with this because I didn't start it, and I won't continue with that because you might get the credit. If we shift that narrative, I'm telling you that Jamaica will be a better place. So there are 10 things, I actually had them up before I came here, 10 things that I really say to myself that these are things that Jamaica would need.
I hear them. Are you?
Yes. And both it's a bipartisan approach, like non-negotiable, whatever it is, Jamaica, PNP and JLP must agree that one, we need affordable and accessible healthcare. We need quality education for everybody. We need a strong rule of law and a justice system. That's three. Economic stability, job creation, non-negotiable. Whoever put in the policy, if it's something that can work, it must be continued. Housing and access to land. That's another thing. National security, crime reduction, that's one. Which number we're at? 6 or 7? Reliable infrastructure.
Yes.
So many times you're in buildings and government buildings too, and we feel like, oh, this one is about to collapse. Infrastructure, spend the time, our roads, all of that is very important. Environmental protection. We don't look at this often enough. We started the plastic bag drive and no more plastics and all of that. But there's more that needs to be done for the environment because we won't even get into it. And this is very important, accountability and good governance.
Yes.
Accountability and good governance. If it is that there, and Danmar would have mentioned earlier the KPIs. If people don't have a standard to which they must meet or to which they must live, there's nothing that will hold them accountable. They will do as they please. Whichever party it is, it's how humans are. If we don't have consequence for our actions, we will act anyhow. And so I believe that whoever will get the credit, which I think no one should, both parties should agree that these are the things that Jamaica needs. And because we are advocates, we are representatives of the people, we ought to ensure that we do this. It's a joint effort. Just the way that both parties could come and they could join the constitution years ago so that we're able to benefit from it. That's how we are to join on policies. These 10 things that I've mentioned, we need to join with them and we need to ensure that Jamaica benefits. I think we can do it, but it's whether we want to do it. That's the truth.
I put a question to you, Danmar, as well. The whole bipartisan of achieving certain things without persons not wanting to go ahead because of politics.
Well, I totally agree with my colleague. And here's the thing. We have to really move away from that belief. And I suspect the people of Jamaica have that same belief as well. Because, listen, if a political party or a MP has a great policy that is working for the citizens of Jamaica, right? In my opinion, it makes no sense or lacks sense or any form of reason why you ought to alter it whenever you're going into power, or to put your own spin on it to the detriment of the citizenry, right? Or the detriment of the people of Jamaica. Again, The current government is utilizing that as a narrative as well in the elections. They're saying, listen, citizens of Jamaica, if you remove us from power and the other party takes over, there's no guarantee that these benefits you enjoy at the NHT, you'll get them or continue to get what we had planned out. There's no guarantee that the SPAR program will continue in terms of the improvement to the road. This $10 billion that the government is planning in terms of potable water infrastructure, there's no guarantee it will be put in place. So it creates a level of fear, running down the spine of the citizens of Jamaica, which, while it's a good political tactic to an election, we don't really want it to be the case. We want to be want to have a structure in place where particular policy is beneficial to the people of Jamaica. It's agreed and from a bipartisan standpoint that, listen, we'll be continuing with this policy because it works. We won't alter it in any way to the detriment of the people. If anything, we'll approve it, obviously going to the proper channels and having the different discussions and meetings. I do believe that one of the things you have to appreciate in Jamaica is that the opposition the opposition just as important, right? So whoever's in opposition, their say is also important in creating a good policy, right? To ensure that when whoever takes government, right, they would have given their 2 cents and would have been a part of the whole structure of the policy, right? So everybody has an interest, so to speak, or a stake in the policy. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents.
Your bio says you aspire to be a revolutionary politician.
Yes,
a revolutionary politician. What would you do if you were? I tell you, I'll be honest with you. When I used to work in Jamaica, and I came in the UK at 23. Yes, 1992. People can figure my age there. Yeah, you guys weren't born yet when I left Jamaica, I think. And I remember I used to work with Clarke at Highgate Food Products, Nigel Clarke's uncle. And I used to go and pick up checks at he get his Grand Facey commodity down on the waterfront area. Yeah. And I always used to call in Wilmot Perkins' program, and I used to very political minded and want to see change for Jamaica as a young person, very vibrant. And I used to pass through these areas which are called impoverished areas. They call them ghetto or so. And you see all these zinc fences and all those things. And I believe some of it still exists. Revolutionary politician, places like Singapore, where Jamaica like to laud and say, Singapore used to want to be like Singapore, but they failed to draw into conclusion and make that point that it was a dictatorship in Singapore.
Well, I'm really glad you brought up. I really glad you brought up that point, because when I utilize the word revolutionary leader, I really want to give it a more modern look, not from the standpoint of socialism or the other point, because reality is, in the modern context, capitalism or having a free market is the way to go, right?
Yes.
But when I say revolutionary, I'm from the standpoint that Jamaica needs serious social, economic changes, right? We can't sleep on the issues anymore. So if I were to ever take government or be a leader in government or a prime minister one day, I'll be a very dedicated leader to see that these changes take place. And my type of leadership would be an inclusive type of leadership where the opposition is just as relevant as the government, right? Civil society groups would have a big say, right? And all these issues that have been floating around for so many years would lay them to bed. You understand? It would really establish where we stand in terms of what our final quote would be. We'll establish what is a Jamaican identity. I'm going to speak a bit on that. The whole concept for me is, in terms of revolutionary and Jamaican identity, from 1962 to present, Jamaica has not forged its own social identity. Yes, we are known for sports. Yes, we're known for the reggae and the nice beaches. But who are we? What does it mean to be a Jamaican? What are we really trying to achieve as Jamaican? The Americans know who they are, right? They know where they come from, what they've been fighting for, right? But from 1962, from we have left the plantation, right? From the plantation society to gain independence, no government has ever given a definition as to who we are as a people and where we are going. And I suspect if we can answer that question, we will be very more patriotic than we are today. And we, when I say we, I'm speaking to government and opposition and the populace, will be pushing forward as one unit, to bring Jamaica where it needs to be. So,
Mm.
as a revolutionary leader, I want to be one of those persons who can answer the question as to who we are and what our goals will be, right? And I'm very passionate about my country. I respect everybody who has to migrate, whatever the case may be, because the diaspora is Jamaica, no matter where you are in the world. From you have Jamaican blood, you are Jamaican, you're welcome home anytime, right? And it's on us now who are in the country, right? Ensure that we fix it so that for those living in England, those in the USA, wherever you are in the world, you feel happy and comfortable to invest in a country and you feel included,
Mm.
in the whole decision making and the future of your country.
Well, let us look at a couple of views from persons here. For Kimberly Edwards said, if our focus remains on people and on serving, then it won't matter who does the work as long as all the work is being done.
Correct.
Okay. How do you think then, in a way, to appease political parties for them to feel comfortable to join together? Is it that when they join together and they formulate a policy which agrees on the one leadership, it should be known that their ideas came into play or whatever like that. So they feel not like somebody's gonna take. Okay. Let me say what I'm trying to say. I hate hearing these things. The PNP did this, the GLP did this, the GLP buy this, and I keep saying, hang on a second, it's the people who bought these things. It's the taxpayers of
It's
Jamaica.
important.
But they always hear like it's a PNP and GLP, and you and I know that the
Mr.
PNP
C,
and GLP is not recognized in the Constitution of Jamaica. It is PNP and GLP is not a term in there. It is the government. The people is the government. As Michelle would say, the people are more stronger than the people in power. Go ahead, please. I know I'm jumping. Yeah.
so I'm just going to answer and I give my colleague any time to
Yes.
free to jump
Yes.
in at any point. But you have to appreciate one thing, At the end of the day, it's politics, right?
Yes.
Our constitution has set out what our government should look like,
Yes.
meaning you have the opposition, you have the government. But at the end of the day, it's politics. One has to be the government, one has to be the opposition. In other words, one political party must gain the support of the majority. Therefore, you have to mark it and say, listen, it's under my leadership. The Spark program was implemented. We fix all these roads, keep me in power. It's very important. But what we can do, as you pointed out, let us have an inclusive approach to say, listen, the Spark program, it was my idea as well as their idea. They contributed this and this, no
Mm.
problem. Because at the end of the day, both parties would get the recognition and
Yes.
accolades come from the people. But it's if the political parties are willing to share the glory. Because I can tell you something, about our Jamaican people that I recognize recently. They have no problem if a good policy was put in place and it was brought to the fore by both parties. They have no problem.
Yes.
Because what you find is that when they see that parties are cooperating, there's a greater level of trust in politicians when they see cooperation. But when they see parties strategically tearing down each other, it creates a little bit of mistrust and it's an uncomfortable type of feeling because we have kind of moved away from that tribalistic approach. The
Mm.
modern generation really wants to see more cooperation and a more policy driven approach by both side of the spectrum. So nobody now go bash anybody if JLP competitor PNP. People just want to see changes. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah. Brittany.
Yes. So what I'd say really is that if the government and the opposition take the approach to work together on policies, the critical issues that we have, it doesn't take away from the fact that they can also implement individual policies. So
Yes.
yes, they can join together and they can do these things on education and housing, but it doesn't stop them from being able to implement other initiatives, do other things. And that can be their marketing point. That can be what they say, well, we did this and we joined with the other side and we did this because, as my colleague rightfully said, it is politics. We cannot take away from that, and politics will have certain tenets that we really and truly cannot ever change. And we also have to examine the fact that in politics we need to have the opposition because there's need for accountability. There's a need for accountability and good governance. So there's one party leading, the other party needs to keep that one accountable. So we agree, and there's certain things we know, cannot really be changed as is. But where the point we really want to drive home is that work together on the core issues that impact Jamaica. Because as he rightfully said, if you have a political climate where it's war, oh,
Yeah.
how dare you say PNP, how dare you say JLP,
Yes.
it's not going to achieve anything. And we have that history. Thankfully, we know are at a place where, well, from what I've seen, both JLP and PNP can be the same place, and we are not thinking about World War III. But and in terms also of youth issues, I believe, because growing up, I saw politics as an avenue for crime.
Yes.
Personally, I saw it as an opportunity. Well, if you wear this color, you're in danger. And if you say
Yeah.
this, or represent, say that you're representing a certain party, then
Mm.
you're putting yourself in danger. And that is the climate that we do not want to actually create. And that is created when the people see that there's no working together. So the people become the child trapped in a bad marriage,
Mm.
the child of the peer. So the PNP and the JLP, out there fighting, and the child just out there rebelling. We don't want that type of situation for Jamaica. What we want is to see that they're working together, especially on the core issues. It doesn't take away from them doing their individual thing and being accountable or accounted for, but there has to be some togetherness. Or we're going to have a GSAT and a PEP situation. That's a prime example. GSAT was working, right? And then we say, okay, we no longer want GSAT, we're going to do PEP. And I'm really happy that PEP is in place, and I think that they're good. This is a good initiative, and it's
Yeah.
working. But God forbid, we have a change in government, and then, okay, they're going to say, well, let's change this. This is not working. Let's go back to this, or let's start something new. That is inconsistent. And not only is it inconsistent, it is not safe for the children who have to undergo these processes, right? So when you make changes, you have to consider the populace. What is it that is they're being affected by? Yeah. So that's really my
Yeah.
input.
That's very interesting. And I want to just go on to something which you mentioned earlier about social media, and I'm picking up here from Super Nick. The digital revolution has been stifled in Jamaica because it opened the eyes of the masses. The TikTok is changing things on a basic level, but we can do more on a corporate level. What do you think with the advent of social media? We touched on it earlier, but I didn't want to go into that bit as yet. The power of social media now, when it comes on to youth and opening the eyes, of lots of people. How influential are social media and influences in shaping the political views of young people? 'Cause we're seeing the advent of the TikTokers, the social media factor. And at the same time, you're hearing key persons in government saying there's too many hearsay or too many lies upon social media, when we know that lots of people also benefit from social media getting into politics. What's your take on that? You can go for it, anyone. Yeah. Mm.
Well, I'm really happy you brought up that discussion, because let me tell you something. TikTok has created an avenue where information can be channeled very swiftly,
Mm.
very efficiently. However, while it has its benefits, because I can tell you, it's very beneficial, as I mentioned earlier, efficiency. But we
Mm.
have an issue as relates to accuracy. Sometimes information, because you have various vloggers, some of the vloggers, their approach is straight up defamation, very defamatory. You understand
Yeah.
me? And so we have to really be mindful how information or it reaches our citizens. Now, I encourage every political party to have a special symbol or logo for any video that's being circulated. I don't know how they'll do it, but they have to get it done, because we're at a very critical point in the campaign process, because one bit of misinformation can derail a whole campaign trail. I'm going to give you a case in point.
Yeah.
Now, at the rally in Halfway Tree, uh, a particular MP would have shared a particular voice note, No, the person who was on the voice note is contending that that's there was some doctoring of the voice note. No, AI is another important factor that goes hand
Yes.
in hand with the social media. So it's pretty dangerous. You understand me? So we have to be very mindful of information is shared. What I can commend the government for doing is that much of the information is very consistent. So far as the Prime Minister's Instagram page is a very primary source for getting information. This is very active on other platforms, but the Instagram page is pretty vital. So
Mm.
you realize that information is shared directly there, and they do a lot of resharing as well. So it's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
But I do advise all political parties to be very careful during this time and just be very mindful, because I can tell you, and you have to be very careful of what you would have said in the past as well on the social media platforms, because
Footprints. Yeah.
yes, because persons will be digging to find to get a one up, as we say
Mm.
in Jamaica, on their rivals. But it has, for the most part, the social media has been helpful in terms of sharing the ideas or the policies that each party has in mind for the
Mm.
future.
Brittany.
Yes, just a point to add, on the other side of what my colleague here is saying, is also the citizens who are using social media. I recall in the past, there was a situation in Portmore where there was a hole in the road and someone had fallen in the hole and hurt themselves. And I believe the daughter, I remember if it's a daughter specifically or somebody related to that individual, actually took a video of it, and tag works agency, I believe tag prime minister, and a few other persons of the state, and say, this is an issue that I really think that needs to be done, and the MP and all
Yes.
of that. And in no time, it was fixed. So what I realized social media has done is create a space for people who, I don't know you personally, I've never seen you, but I read somewhere that you are responsible for this thing, and I'm going to use social media to bring it to your attention. Now, of course, there are so many disadvantages to that, because sometimes, as my colleague said, you have defamatory statements that are made. You also have things that are brought to the media, which really didn't have to come to the media, especially in
Yes.
that way. But
Yes.
in everything, as I like to say, there needs to be a balanced approach, but I believe that social media has played an important part. There are people who have gained access to houses because somebody passed their house and saw that, whoa,
Yes.
they live in a really deplorable condition, and say, Prime Minister, at the Prime Minister's page, at somebody's page, and say, hey, can we do something for this person? People are pouring out on social media, getting access to, how can I assist this individual? How can the
Yes.
member of parliament do this? And so social media has been that agent of change in some ways. So if you use it carefully, just as AI, just as anything else, you realize that, listen, we can make changes and positive changes with social media.
Yes, definitely. On Instagram, because I'm I'm struggling. Few different platforms here: Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube and Facebook as well. Cecil Kaba, I have noted your comments. He said it's just a cultural thing. We have elected representatives, so whatever is accomplished by the governing party will take credit. The JLP will give the opposition credit. The risers who invaded and took over the control of the traditional PNP, not interested in unity, and the video voice note was not necessary. The JLP has ascendancy. That is just saying that what somebody said right there. Um, Guys, you can stay on a little more longer. And well, I passed my time, but I want to keep flowing because I like this conversation. You guys okay with time? You
Yeah,
done right? You know I'm
it's
going
Ah,
to
all
yeah,
good.
sure.
It's
Mhm.
all
you,
good. It's daytime in Jamaica, so it's
is
all
it
good.
okay? Okay, it's means a worry, isn't it? 23, 28, almost 7 o'clock. All right, we're cool then. All right. uh somebody said two very intelligent young people there speaking. I want to say that I do commend you guys, and you know it gives hope because like in the UK, for argument's sake, they say the Conservative Party, for argument's sake, a lot of the members are older folks, and the Labour Party in the UK, lots of younger folks who are more on the left side. Uh, do you see in Jamaica the rise of young people? What, if anything, would motivate more youths to get involved um, in political process? And I'm not meaning voting. I'm talking about in the leadership area. Like how my brethren want to be a revolutionary leader, you know? I'm saying leader, okay? I'm saying it Danmar Clarke, revolutionary leader, because I like what you speak. And I whenever you're ready to go on the stand, I support you. Whichever party you are, because your heart is in the right place. Um, what do you think are any blockages, or what can inspire young people to step up into political process, or are there dinosaurs which are holding them back, or there are things of the past which they don't like and they find it as still a factor? I put that to you first, Britney.
Right, because we need to hear from our future political representative. And of course, I'll be supporting my colleague, as soon as he makes that decision.
Yeah.
But let me just say that there really are dinosaurs in certain areas of political
Mm,
representation rather. And you find that young people, they have more of a no nonsense approach when it comes on to a certain thing.
yes.
They having experienced certain things, having access to AI, having access to certain revolutionary conversations, that they have access to international news, everything that is taking place, that inspires them to know more and to do more. They would want to come to politics and to make a change. I know that everybody who comes into politics wants to make a change. I don't believe anybody just go there because, oh, I think I'm so capable. I don't think so. I think everybody goes there with an intention to make a change. But you
Mm,
find that as soon as they get there, there's a shift.
mm,
There's a shift, the agenda changes, and you're wondering what has become of this person. So I think the influence in politics, in parliament, is just really strong. And so it goes back to just the dinosaurs. Like, this thing has been a long-standing practice. This has been the way it has gone. And you find that young people, when they go in politics, boy, they say if you go to Rome, you do as the Romans do. I
mm,
recall some years ago, there was this particular candidate. I won't refer to the name, and I believe that that individual went with the best of intentions.
mm,
And I believe that person didn't really go far in politics, because it seems to me that that person would have realized that, okay, so this playground is not really what I thought it was going to be. And young people want to get involved. I can see that because I know how excited young people are when they come on to youth parliament. And if they're
yeah.
excited for youth parliament, it means that they want to also mirror it when in actual parliament. They want to be involved. But there are
Mm,
certain limitations we must admit that actually exist. Some of them probably not come to the forefront at the immediate term, but as they go in and they come out, they say, wait, what happened? You weren't a part of this anymore, and you realize, well, this happened and that happened. So it's really about creating the space for long-term change. If all of us want the change, and the change can be possible. Cannot just be one young one Mr. Clarke come and say, "Oh, I want to be the change. I want to be the leader." He's a Garvey of the new generation,
mm,
and then he has no one behind him.
yes.
Garvey had his followers, and Garvey had people who had the same mindset. So that is really what drives the change when with young people going in politics. They must have the support.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Um, revolutionary leader. That's your name for
Thank you. I definitely agree. No problem at all. I accept it. I receive it. I receive it.
But I
I
understand the
definitely
context.
agree with my colleague.
But I do understand the context of revolutionary, because, as you said, how you clarified, revolutionary has different terms these days, as
Definitely.
well. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Yes.
Definitely. So I just wanna, yeah, I agree with my colleague. Um, in terms of for the upcoming generation, I can tell you, I think they're more enthusiastic and interested in joining politics. I mean, there are different avenues in Jamaica. The Governor General Youth Awards, I watch it every year and I see how enthusiastic persons are. You know, I see the different youth parliamentarian programs. A lot of persons apply, hundreds of people apply each year from different parishes.
Mm,
So I'm saying all that to say that people are pretty much interested. I really must give respect, show my respect to the different political actors who are making it very easy for young people to enter politics and to let their voice be heard. I recognize now in 2025 more than ever, political parties are seeing the importance of young people. I'm going to tell you why we're very important in the space. Young people are always quicker in terms of creating not only just new policies but just policies that really fit the day. Sometimes our older leaders are a bit out of touch in terms of what can work practically, and so they might take a bit of a textbook approach, but young people very well read, well experienced, and so they can give you practical solutions. So any political party, I think that the best thing for them is to recruit as much young, bright, talented young people as possible. They can help you to revamp your political party and give you a strategic plan moving forward. And I can tell you, any party that utilizes young people in that way, they'll be around for a long time, right? Because I'm going to give you an analogy I gave my colleagues. Think about everything at a very granular level. Every year, you have thousands of people turning 18-year-old or 18 years of age in Jamaica, meaning every year you have 1,000 set of persons who are eligible to vote at any set election.
Yes.
If any political party strategically approaches everybody that's turning 18 years of age and encourages them to switch over to their political party to vote for them, whichever constituency it is, right? Trust me, over a 4-year period now, right? Trust me, you will see a significant change, right? I'm saying all that to say, young people are important in the political process and
Yes.
ought not be sidelined. Anybody who sideline young people is a grave mistake, and I leave it at that.
I want to tell you that you know, I'm very intrigued, just like Danville Clarke said. Someone named Danville Clarke said, such an intriguing topic. Loving this conversation, and I've had many discussions over the years. I've been interviewing from 2015, interviewing young people, prime minister, governors, and blah blah blah. And I find this conversation with young persons. I mean, I'm in my 20s, just like you guys, so we're all in the same age range. You know what I mean? Let me clarify something for the listeners' purposes. Information. You guys are in your 20s, yes, both of you.
Yes.
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 So, ladies and gentlemen, these guys are in their 20s, and I think next week I'm going to get some more people in their 20s. I want to big up Shamar Clark. Shamar, not Shamar.
Tomorrow, Brian.
Shamar. Shamar should have been on the program. He's on his way from Otrius. So I said to Shamar, you should have actually been on the program while you're on the beach having a pina colada in Otrius, to show homage to my hometown. But I definitely will have to get more young persons in these level of conversation, because you guys are the future, and the future of Jamaica. And as someone says, you're going to have a revolution to make changes. One of the things about Jamaica, and you guys must have known as students of history, Jamaica has come through a pathway whereby there are lots of history, and there are some things which are under the carpet whereby it is like dirty and it's murky, and it's like it needs to be uncovered. And I've always said that there need to be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission from the 80s and these days. It is like sometimes new persons are coming into power, or young persons coming to power. They are coming down with the same training or the same thinking of something from the past. And it's like there need to be some sort of break in a way. But I've always said that, is there a need for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission so people can unearth certain things of the past in Jamaica? I sure that anyone want to take it up. Britnie, ladies first. Let me just do that.
So you're asking if there is need for young people to be a part of the unearthing of
No,
what is.
no, 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 no. I'm talking about, should there be unearthing of things in the past? Not about young people per se,
Okay.
but
Okay.
for something, a new shift in the dynamism of Jamaica. Someone said something earlier. I'm trying to see who said it. They need to prove the point. What they said. Politics in Jamaica do not really. I can't remember where it was. Yeah, but somebody had said something about there need to be some shifting. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, the power is in our policy. That's really what I'd say. The power is in our policy. We don't want a revolution where we have the fighting like back in the plantation. We don't want any more of that. We don't want to see what's taking place in Haiti, overthrowing the government, and we don't want all of that. I don't believe that we have such a hostile environment that would be necessary. But definitely, the power is in our policy. Once we have change in policies, things that can really uh, remove just some of these existing challenges that we've had as a people, as a country.
Yeah.
Once we do make a change in policy and actually live out these policies, actually work out these policies, because one of the things you have is you have policy on paper but not in action, and you
Yeah.
don't want that, because if you have such a situation, it's a stagnant country, it's a stagnant situation. So let's say we want to get out of this habit of having, just for argument's sake, overloading taxes,
Mm.
right? Overloading taxes, whichever area you are. In policy, you have that no more than five should be allotted to this car of this magnitude, of this size, and this should happen in paper. But really and truly, on the road, something else is taking place. Then that doesn't really create any change, any real change. So everything that is happening, it takes place with policy and actually working out that policy, effecting the policy. So that's really what I'd say regarding that.
Okay. Denmark.
All right. So just repeat the question, Mr.
Okay.
Silborn. It's spoke about
Yes.
unearthing.
Yes. Okay. In the 80s, you got lots of issues in Jamaica. Before that, you got lots of issues in Jamaica. They talk about the garrison, they talk about the gunmanship and all those sort of things. They say politicians are involved with these things. Let me just break it down. And there, people say so many things all the while. It's like in Jamaica, they say these are open secrets. These are things we all know, but you can't prove these things. It is like there's a need to unearth certain things and to set
I see.
things, clear the air, and Jamaica can go on a new trajectory, a shift.
Well, Silborn, it's very interesting.
Mm,
You should bring that up, and I'm going to start a conversation like this. I can
yeah.
remember, I think it's a year or so ago, the Minister of National Security, he did something very significant yet change. He literally apologized on behalf of both political parties, said that we apologize for what we would have done to the people of Jamaica over our time in our period of existence.
Yes.
Now, without really coming out directly and saying what each party would have done, because both, I would suspect, guilty on both sides, whatever they might have done in the 80s, 70s, and so forth,
Yeah.
fine. And these are things that we know. It's pretty well documented. Many of it is folk tales that we would have heard. Many of it is just out there. Well, we don't really
Mm,
necessarily want anybody to come and repeat it per se as to what each party would have done because of the reputational damage, which we're trying to avoid. Nothing is wrong with each party saying, listen, or a party saying, listen. The 80s and the 70s are a time of the past. We're now in 2025. We are starting our own social visionary movement. If revolutionary is a bit rough, because we don't want person to think that there'll be burn up buildings and anything like that. But if we
yeah.
want to use the word visionary movement, we can say we're going to start our own visionary movement. Look at countries like China would have done
Mm,
significant improvements to their economy and so on, right?
yes.
If we're going to call ourselves a republic very soon, and we're going to be revamping our constitution, revamping the constitution and calling yourself a republic, but with the same mindset means it's nada to me. The people themselves have to be given their identity. Listen, we were countries such as Haiti, as unbalanced and unstructured as it might be currently, they have a national identity, right? One of the first African countries to, well, Caribbean countries to gain their freedom, so forth and so on. We're at a point now where we need to establish our own identity as a Caribbean state and push forward for the next generation. I want my children to grow up in a country where they understand that we listen. We started We got independence in 1962, but in 2025 we have created our identity as descendants of Africans who are very ambitious, trustworthy people who believe in economic growth, or we believe in justice for all. We just want to establish certain fundamental, or should I say, trite principles that will guide our society, and we
Yes.
want to move forward. Because let us be honest with ourselves. Even if we have a good government in 2025, right, we have to be concerned with what will happen when a new government comes into play or a new leader comes in for government, right?
Mm.
We want to ensure that all the progress is maintained and Jamaica continues to elevate. We can't just enjoy a period of
5 years,
success
5 years, 5 years.
and then we collapse because we can't go back to the dark ages. We have to progress as a state. The only way we can progress steadily is if the people having their national identity are able to hold the leaders accountable. I do not want the people to operate on an ad hoc basis, as it goes, right? We
Mm.
want to be a case where, listen, we know who we are, we know what we are trying to achieve, and each party must operate along these lines to bring us there, right? So if we say to ourselves, all right, we're trying to bring Jamaica to become a first world country in the Caribbean, and we've identified who we are as a republic, we can
Yeah.
never deviate. The policies might have a minor difference in terms of approach, but we're going
Mm.
to get there. And it's very important for us as young people. And that's what we want as young people, right?
Yes.
And trust me, that will be the guiding factor or the invisible factor going into the elections. I can tell you that. And I'm sure of my point there.
Yeah. Fantastic. You know, we will have to come back again. I'm inviting you guys again to talk about, and this is after the election, constitution reform, and all these different factors there. Um, but one thing I'm going to ask you guys, and to think on this in the meantime, if elected leaders are watching, and I'm going to send a message to them, and I'll cut a clip of this and send it to them because I got the ears of both the political leaders and their contact. If Andrew Holness is watching, and if Mark Golden is watching, what is the message would you like them to hear? Saying you're embodying the Jamaican youths, you're gleaning what the Jamaican youths are saying about their hopes for the country. What is it that you would like to say to them? Think on that in the meantime. So you can. That's going to be a summing up. About 2 minutes of that. But what do you think about impeachment? And fixed date parliament, and the other one, which is recall. What's your take on those things? Go for you, Britney.
All right. I'm actually very happy that you mentioned, the fixed date, because that's something I wanted to raise before I left here. Fixed date.
Yeah.
We cannot continue to have a situation where one party knows when the election is going to be, and the other party sits in anticipation mode as to when it will be. They can guess and spell, they can draw up a plan, but they're really not sure.
Mm.
We want to have it constitutionally written so that both parties know. Nobody can say they're at a disadvantage. Nobody can say that they are in a situation where, oh, that person got an opportunity to better prepare, or the reason why we didn't see this document or this manifesto is because this person was, a disadvantage. We don't want a situation like that. Allow it to be constitutional written that by this time, by this week of whichever year in certain time, the elections are constitutionally held, and we don't kind of really give one person or one party just the power to call the date. Let the date be constitutionally written. Yes.
Mm. Yeah.
That's something that I certainly, that has been a thought for me for a while. No, in terms of impeachment, I really hope we don't have to get to the point where we have to impeach our leaders. Really and truly, we don't want to get to that point,
Mm.
right? But I believe, as the law says, no one is above the law. That's the truth. No one is above the law. And again, I will also speak on accountability. When you are called to be a leader, you're called to first serve. A lot of times we misunderstand rather the the mantle of leadership. We are called to serve people. And if we're called to serve people, it means that we must be accountable. The things that we set out to do, the laws that govern our actions must be upheld, must be adhered to. We are not above the law as leaders. I'm not a leader of a country, but I'm speaking generally as a leader, right?
Yes.
No one is above the law. And
Mm.
so it should be a possible consequence that people know, political leaders know, can take place.
Mm.
Because again, no one is above the law. So that's just what I'll say on that.
Okay. And the recall, the same recall process as well.
Well, I haven't really given much thought to the recall, and here's why. Just as in, there's some matters that I choose to have a reservation about, and so that's one of them, right?
Okay.
I chose not to interject in that part.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you very much, Brittany. Denmark, your last bit on that point there.
Okay, so when it comes on to constitutional reform, I'm very passionate about it. Very, very passionate about it. As it relates to fixed date or fixed term elections, my position is that I think it ought to be put in place.
Mm.
Primarily because if we observe the 2020 date for the elections, the same thing as the 2025 election. So clearly, September 3rd is a workable date, right? It
Mm.
gives the political parties more than enough time to organize themselves, campaign, and so on. And it's within that little final window, constitutional window,
Yes.
right? During which you can operate. So nothing's wrong with fixed date elections, right? So I'm all for it. However, have to have like a proviso now in the constitution if we're looking to the fixed date elections. We have to say to ourselves, well, in the case of any war, famine, pestilence, or another COVID, obviously you have to put in certain amendments
Mm.
to the date, whatever the case may be, right? So I'm all for that.
Yes.
As it relates now to impeachment, I do believe that we must have some process in place in some process in place to eject politicians who violate the rule of law or the laws of the land. In
Mm.
any organization at all, there are processes in place to fire an employee, right? Therefore,
Mm.
likewise, or should I say likewise, we should have the same thing in government. You understand me? Obviously, what I would encourage though, we don't want to be used, as we say in law, to be used as a machine for fraud or well, not fraud in this case, but we don't want to be used as a political machine now to say, okay, well, we don't like this candidate, so we're going to use the impeachment process to sully their reputation, or we're going to use it as a mechanism now to hinder their progress, right? We don't want that. So we really would have to see how best we can incorporate the judiciary, that's a court system, in this whole process. Say, all right, if we're
Yes.
ever going to look to impeach a political leader, it must be done in a fair way, right? The same safeguards which are put in a regular trial must be put in this trial, and there must be grounds in place. Now, grounds are very legal phrase now, but grounds are
Mm.
essentially reasons, legal reasons on which you can operate. So there must be clear guidelines or clear grounds upon which you can step forward to say, we're going to impeach this leader, and it must have a threshold not to say, all right, in order for the grounds to be satisfied, the threshold must be met. And I think if we
Yes.
put in these clear mechanisms in place, I think it will be a very good mechanism, because we have to face reality. We
Yes.
have to allow our leaders to have a sense of, now I don't want to use the word fear, but I want them to be accountable. I want them to appreciate the fact that
Mm.
if I'm engaging in any form of fraud or illegal activity, I can lose this position. And I
Yes.
think if we put these things in place, we'll get better governance. You understand me? If first world countries like the States have it, I don't see why we shouldn't have it, right? I don't see why we
Mm.
shouldn't have it. And let me tell you something. The beauty of constitutional reform is that you can create the machinery, the constitutional machine that you want for your own state. So it's a
Yes.
unique opportunity for us to put in what we want for our country. Let
Mm.
us create the Jamaican identity in our constitution. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. And finally, Brittany, I'll come to you first in closing because I'm going to close now. If elected leaders are watching, what message would you like them to hear from Jamaican youths and their hopes for the country? You got
All
two
right,
minutes.
2 minutes. Oh, that's a lot. I don't believe I
Well,
need so much.
I mean, yeah, 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 whatever,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
so I'll just start by saying that Young people are an agent of change, and they are very instrumental in what Jamaica will look like in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 100 years, even after the current leaders are no more, even after we are gone. And so their voices must be heard and must be taken into effect, into policy. Now, I mentioned before that there are 10 things that I believe that are non-negotiables that both parties must ensure that they take a bipartisan approach to addressing, so that Jamaica can become that nation that we really envision. So, and the 10 things that I mentioned before, which I will reiterate for our leaders who are watching, that one, Jamaica needs to see, young people need to see affordable and accessible healthcare, right? Quality education for all, economic stability and job creation, housing and land access, strong rule of law and justice system, national security. Yes, we want to see crime reduction, reliable infrastructure, our roads, electricity, all of that. Food security, very important. Environmental protection. And most importantly, this is something that the government has utmost control over, is good governance and accountability. So young people are an essential framework of this country. And so we want to see these things actively taking place, actively being worked upon, so that Jamaica may, under God, increase in beauty, as our song says, as our plate says.
Thank you very much for that, Britney. Much appreciated. And Sir Denmark, revolutionary leader.
All right. So to Mr. Mark Golding, to Dr. Andrew Holness,
Mm.
what I have to say to both gentlemen, PNP or JLP, we're only one P. That is, we're people. So the people must come first. We, under the Constitution, as the electorate, are given the opportunity to elect who we think can better guide this country. No matter who is elected,
Mm.
please remember your commitment to the Jamaican people. Remember the importance of education, housing, healthcare. My colleague would have said it all. We're depending on you, right? I implore both leaders
Yes.
to remember the importance of youth in the process. Youth, young people, can help you with your strategic planning, and the youth will be the future of this country. As I said it, I'm going to say it again. Every year, thousands of 18-year-olds, or should I say,
Mm.
placed on the voters list. Take the time to recruit these young persons and ensure, and of course, put the vision to them, right? We have to appreciate the fact that we have to establish a Jamaican identity. It is about time, since we're going to become a republic, and we have to have the young people in the conversation. We must appreciate the fact that the rule of law must be respected. Whoever becomes leader of this country, remember, all policies passed must respect the Constitution and respect the rights of our citizens, right? And I must say, doesn't matter what spectrum that you're on, PNP or JLP, I love my country and I respect my opposition leader and I respect my prime minister. And I wish them all the best in the upcoming elections. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And that is very commendable of yourself. And I've always said, and someone always said to me sometimes in my discussion, one thing I do is always show respect to the Prime Minister. And I believe the office of the Prime Minister is very important, irrespective of which side a person is. But one thing I want to share is something that Marcus Garvey in the book called Suggested Writings and Speeches of Marcus Garvey, which I'm just going to share right here. And they said, a Southern woman who joined the UNIA said, Garvey is giving my people backbones where they had wishbones. And listening to you guys, I want to put that charge to you guys, whereby lots of people sometimes have wishbones, but what they need are backbones. And in order to have backbones, you're going to need people who are very astute, intelligent, and have the vision and the foresight for the future. And listening to you guys, I see great things for Jamaica. Jamaicans are in good hands. And thanks for Shamar for introducing me to you guys. And of course, naturally, because you're from Otrius, sorry, Brittany. Brittany's from Kingston as well. I live in Kingston for a while.
Actually, I'm from Clarendon, I'm from Clarendon.
Oh, you're from Clarendon, from Matunda section. Okay, all right, okay.
Yes.
And Denmark, but fantastic. So thank you so much, guys, for coming on. And I extend another invitation for you guys after the election to talk about the constitution reform as the way forward, because that I believe is going to be the next agenda. And the whole thing about CCJ and Privy Council. Let's not go there. I know you guys have your views on CCJ and Privy Council, So I want to thank you so much for coming on, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for both. Give our respect to both Britnie Edwards and Danmar Clarke. Britnie Edwards, Jamaican attorney at law, podcast host, and she's beyond her legal career, has represented her parish in Miss Festival Queen competition through her podcast, public speaking. She continues to inspire others by making the law accessible and sharing message of faith and empowerment. Britnie, if you just mention your podcast angles, if you can just say it so people can follow you, tell us where it is, or they can reach you, or they can listen.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Well, my Instagram, Britnie, Britnie.Edwards.JM. So that's my Instagram. And for my podcast, it's called The Awakened Purpose Podcast. You can find that on Spotify and on Google Podcasts. We're also on YouTube at
Okay.
Bree Tap Talk at Bree.
Okay,
Thank
fantastic,
you.
fantastic. And Shamar, no, Shamar. I'm big enough Shamar as much as possible, because it wasn't Shamar who wouldn't have you guys here. Danmar Clarke is a holder of a bachelor's law degree from UTech Jamaica, and the recently satisfied the criteria to graduate in Norman Man Law School and will be receiving legal practice certificate in September. Danmar is very passionate about politics and law and considers himself to be an advocate. He's most notably known in Jamaica for his fight for equal access to the legal profession for students, and the future aspires to be, and this is what I want to finish with, a revolutionary politician. So I call him my revolutionary leader. And whenever he's ready, he's got my full support from the diaspora. That is if I'm not back in Jamaica to be one of his advisors everywhere.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. I receive it.
Yes. And I spoke to your former principal about yourself. He said, good guy, man. I was giving him a different name, and he said, no, man. I said, I know the name, Silver. It's not that. That's not the name. And I look on the phone again. Oh, Danmar. Yeah, man. I know it's Danmar. That is your former principal, my
Yes,
classmate, Raymond Treasure from York Castle High School. Any last word, Danmar?
Well, last word.
Yes.
Everyone watching, please follow me on Instagram at Danmar Clarke.
Danmar, same name, yeah? Same name.
Same name. I just want to say thank you for inviting me, and I'm more than excited to be back for the constitutional reform discussion. I know my colleague shares the same positions. It was very awesome tonight, and hope to be back for sure.
Thank you very much, sir. And Britnie, last word for you.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure being here on the show with you. So thank you so much for the invitation. I also look forward to being here. The next conversation, that should be very interesting. So, all the best. And, we really regret that we won't have you to vote, because you don't want to do that. But let's hope that, persons actually go to the polls and make the right choice.
I woke up a guy the other day, a Jamaican guy, and I say, I vote. He said, boy, I can't go down and vote. Me give you mine now. Me give you mine to vote. He said he's going to give me his vote to go down and vote. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much. Those joining on TikTok, thank you so much for that. Those on Instagram, thank you for that as well. And Instagram, you guys might not see the Instagram bit, but I'm getting a few comments on Instagram. Unfortunately, Instagram doesn't stay. The platform, the information on the live doesn't stay on the Instagram, but it will be on Facebook and on YouTube. This particular YouTube channel, the show is there already. So the same link that you guys have and watching, it's going to be the same one. All I'll do is just cut away the first start of it, where the long intro, whereby the music was playing, and the end will be there. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining tonight. And thanks so much for Mr. Mr. Danmar Clarke and Britnie Edwards. Have a good night and bless you. Peace out.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Likewise. Bye.